Advertisers, management, staff, or ownership of WCTC.
No time to call Jersey Central? Join the conversation online and be a part of WCTC's real-time talk. Like 1450 WCTC on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at 1450 WCTC. Jersey Central with Bert Barron.
Think we could listen to the radio or something?
On the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC.
It's 8:08. Welcome to hour number 3 of Jersey Central on the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. It is Bert. Good morning to you. Coming up, a big announcement regarding our friends at the Somerset Patriots and WCTC. We're going to give you all the details on something very cool that's coming up in July. You'll have all the information on that for you straight ahead. Also, we'll talk about some layoffs, unfortunately, that impacted Bergen County Police. And there were some layoffs that were announced yesterday. And we'll talk about that coming up. Well, recycling. You know, you put your stuff out to the curb every couple of weeks and, you know, your cans and bottles and paper and just something that we're kind of so used to doing. A study was released recently to talk about the impact, the economic impact that recycling has on our country. And it's really remarkable just how important it is. Joining me now on the Jersey Central Newsmaker Hotline, let's welcome in Chief Economist and Director of Commodities at the ISRI. We have Joseph Pickard, and ISRI, by the way, the Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries. And Joseph Pickard is with us here this morning to talk about the study. Good morning, Joseph. It's Bert Barron. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How about yourself?
Good to talk to you. First of all, I have to come clean on something. We do a single stream recycling in the town I live in, where we have one bin. We put in cans, bottles, cardboard, paper. It all goes in one bin. And every 2 weeks, I walk it out to the curb on Sunday night, and it gets picked up Monday morning. Yesterday, my stuff didn't get picked up. So I went back and looked at the calendar. Joseph, would you believe I'm off a week? I was so embarrassed that I had to go back out now and bring my recycling back around the back of the house. And now I have to stockpile my recycling for another week. But I'm just one of many people that take part in this, and it's really important that it is done at every state and every town across our country. Talk about the economic impact that recycling has.
Well, first of all, thanks very much for having me. I think when people think about recycling, that's what they think about. They think about curbside and the blue bins, and they don't necessarily really appreciate how big of an industry our scrap recycling industry is and how big of an economic impact scrap recycling has. So that's why ISRI commissioned an update to our job study, which shows that in the United States alone, our industry generates more than $116 billion in economic activity every year and supports more than 530,000 jobs across the United States.
So this is when it's done at the residential level or maybe on a manufacturing or an industrial level where recycling obviously is key. This puts 500,000 people to work every single day in our country. I think that's remarkable.
That's right. And almost 18,000 people alone just in the state of New Jersey. So, recycling is really much bigger than just the bin because the scrap recycling industry processes really the whole range of recyclables, from steel and aluminum to plastics and paper. Every year in this country, we're processing more than 130 million tons of recyclables every year.
It's just incredible. Talk about, if you would, what it means from the financial and economic standpoint. We always hear about, and we have advertisers, different county municipalities that partner with our radio station to kind of get the word out about the importance of recycling. And they talk about, these things that are recycled, these recyclable items are actually worth money to the various counties. Talk about how that translates into revenue for some of these local municipalities.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the important thing to keep in mind is that scrap really isn't waste. It's a really valuable raw material input for manufacturers. That's really the first link in the manufacturing process. So if you think about old cans or end-of-life automobiles, for example, those can be recycled and made into new products. So in the United States alone, again, our industry is supporting over 530,000 jobs, and we're processing, millions and millions of tons of materials every year. And I think the important thing to keep in mind for some recyclables, like metals, for example, is that they can be recycled virtually an infinite number of times. And so these valuable scrap commodities are really valuable for the manufacturing process. For the steel industry in the United States alone, for example, about 2/3 of the steel that's produced in this country is produced from scrap. So really our manufacturing base understands just how valuable recyclables are for manufacturing new products.
Yeah, and Joseph, maybe someone listening isn't so concerned about the value to the towns or to the county or to the state or whatnot, but impress on them, if you would, about the environmental impact of recycling. You know, George Carlin, the old comedian, used to say, well, I don't see how throwing a tin can in a river is going to impact the ozone layer. But talk about the at least the environmental impact that recycling has. It's quite significant, isn't it?
It sure is. You know, in addition to that $116 billion of economic activity and the more than $13 billion in taxes that our industry generates, recycling is excellent for the environment as well for three main reasons. The first one is that the material that we recycle then doesn't have to go to landfills and take up valuable landfill space. Secondly, using recyclables means that we don't have to drill or mine for new material to produce new products. So it's conserving our natural resources. And thirdly, recycling consumes a lot less energy when producing new products. So for the case of aluminum, for example, which is extremely energy intensive, using recyclables instead of primary material cuts the energy cost by about 90%. And so that energy savings is going to put a lot less emissions into the atmosphere. So it's good for, both land, sea, and air.
Joseph Pickard is our guest this morning here on WCTC, chief economist. He's also director of commodities at the ISRI, the Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries. And we're talking about a study that was just released talking about the economic and environmental impact and the importance of recycling, something that some people kind of take for granted, but it really has a pretty wide-reaching impact. Is this the whole concept of recycling, Joseph, is this in its infancy, or is this something that's been going on for a while? And is there a future of maybe new initiatives when it comes to recycling down the road?
Well, recycling's been with us for a very long time, but I think the ability for society to improve our recycling and our collection and recyclable rates continues to improve. For example, for paper products in the United States, we're recycling about 67% of the paper that's generated here in the country annually. But certainly there's room for improvement, and I think as society becomes increasingly aware of the need for sustainable development along with economic growth, recycling becomes more and more important. So we really see recycling as a growth industry going forward.
Yeah, and there's even companies here in New Jersey, Joseph, that actually specialize in recycling of some very, very difficult to recycle items, whether it's part of perhaps an assembly process that makes, some parts of a device are recyclable, some parts aren't. There are companies that are going that extra mile and trying to get the most out of recycling and some very, very difficult things that maybe some years ago you would never have dreamt that were recyclable are now kind of getting into that stream, which I think is real important. Where can someone go, Joseph, to get some more information about what you do and the results of this study?
Sure. For more information about recycling and about all the great economic and environmental benefits, please go to www.isri.org. That's ISRI.org. And for more information about our job study, please visit isri.org/economy.
Very cool. So keep on recycling, all right? Make sure you keep putting that stuff out. Joseph Pickard, chief economist and director of commodities at the ISRI. Good information this morning, Joseph. Thanks for joining us, all right?